Hi, Earl Warren family. I'm so glad to see you again this week. It's the third week in October, and we are still talking about grit in art. Remember, grit means that we try and try and try again, even when things are hard, that we push through, that we persevere, that we try to overcome. And artists are experts at grit. Remember, we talked about Frida Kahlo and how she overcame all sorts of illnesses and injuries and continued to create art. And last week we talked about Yuyi Morales and how she overcame the hardships of moving to a new country and not knowing a language and not being able to have her old career. And she found out something new about herself as she had grit and she persevered. Well, this week, I want to tell you about some amazing artists who have persevered through hardships that most of us won't ever know. These are artists who are the members of something called the, maybe I'm not going to tell you yet. First, I'm going to show you their artwork. I'll show you a few paintings from a few different people. And I just want you to look at them and admire the amazing detail, the beautiful colors, and the expertise. So here, take a look at a few pieces of art. Aren't those awesome? So much detail, so much precision, so many beautiful colors. Did you have a favorite? I don't think I could pick one. Well, I'm going to tell you something about all of those paintings. All of those paintings were done by members of an association called the Mouth and Foot Painters Association of America. I'm going to say that again. The Mouth, and hang on. Well, I don't think I can lift my foot that high. Foot Painters Association of America. Because all of those paintings were done by people who don't have use of their hands. That's right. They didn't use their hands to paint those paintings. Each one of those artists had a condition, either a disability that they were born with, or they suffered an injury that prevented them from using their hands. And so they learned to paint using a paintbrush, using their paints, but painting like that, with a paintbrush in their mouth, or with a paintbrush between their toes. Here, take a look at these artists as they paint using their mouths and their feet. Again, really amazing, right? That those artists had to persevere and learn a whole new skill and created such masterpieces using their mouths and their feet. So I want us to try to do the same today. We are going to paint a fall scene using both our mouths and our feet. But first, we're going to just try to have a little bit of grit with something that's just a little bit hard. Your supplies for today will be your watercolor brush. Everybody has a nice fancy artist watercolor brush. Your watercolor paints, a piece of nice art paper, and a Sharpie marker. So pause the video and go get those things. Okay. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the cap off of our Sharpie marker, and I want you to hold it in the hand that you like to write your name in. Now, I want you to put it in the other hand. And I want you to take your good hand and I want you to sit on it so you can't use it at all. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just practice overcoming a little hardship by drawing our landscape with a hand that we're probably not very good at drawing with. And not only do I want you to use this hand, but I want you to hold the marker like this. So no holding your marker the right way. We're going to hold the marker like this using what we call our non-dominant hand, the hand that we don't like to write or draw with. And I'm going to teach you how to draw some trees just like this.
Okay, here's the sample project that I did for today. You can see that I drew 3 fall trees. I painted the leaves in warm fall colors, and I did that with my mouth. Then I painted the sky blue and the grass green. I did the sky with my mouth, but I did the grass with my feet. So we're going to try to do that too. But the first thing we need to do is learn how to draw trees. Now, these trees are a very basic shape. What letter do you see in these trees? Give you a hint. I'll trace it for you. Do you see the letter Y? In fact, there are lots of letter Ys. There's a letter Y there and a letter Y there, all over the place. Now, these aren't the best Ys, are they? And do you know why? Because I didn't use my good writing hand. I used the hand I don't like to write with, and I held it like this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our blank piece of paper, and we're going to draw 3 big Ys. We'll draw a Y here, a Y somewhere in the middle, and a Y on the other side. So I'm going to take my marker, and remember this hand, my good hand, what am I going to do with it? I'm going to sit on it. So this is not going to be awesome. You might find that your paper wiggles a little bit. You're going to really want to hold on to it, but you can't because we're having grit just using one hand. It's not as easy as you would think. So I drew my one big Y, and then I'm going to draw some other Ys coming off of the edges. You'll notice that I'm finding that it's a little easier to start my Y with the base and then come up and make the 2 little parts at the top. So I'm going to start at one of the big branches. I'm going to go up and make a Y just like that. I might want to make my trunk a little bit thicker, so the base of my Y, but you can make as many. You can make big Ys. You make little teeny tiny baby Ys. But we're just doing the branches of our tree first. Okay, I did one there. I think I'm going to do one in the middle. Make another Y. Sitting on that hand, holding my marker in a funny way. It's always good to try new and hard things. You know what this does? It doesn't just make us giggle, because I bet some of you are giggling right now as you're making funny, wiggly looking trees. I'm going to put another Y over here. Did you know that when we try new and hard things, it actually makes our brains grow? It makes us even smarter. And did you know that doing stuff like this, trying hard things in art, can even make you smarter at math and at reading and at science and at social studies? It's crazy, because our brain is thinking, oh my goodness, I've never done this before. This is hard. And our brain tries and tries and tries, and it learns how to do something that it's never done before. So art is not only fun. It's sometimes like doing a workout for your brain. All right, so see, I'm adding all my Y's. Okay, so there are my 3 funky looking trees. I'm gonna adjust my camera just a little bit so I can see. Hopefully you guys can see it a little bit better. It feels like it's in a funny place today. All right, so there are my 3 trees. And now I'm just gonna add a little bit of ground. So I'm gonna start on this side and I'm gonna just add, we call this the horizon line. It's where the sky meets the earth. I'm gonna go behind my trees and I'm gonna just add it all the way across my paper. And notice I'm going behind the tree trunks, not through them if I can help it. And then I'm gonna just add some details at the bottom. Maybe you could add some more lines just to make it interesting. You could add some little grasses if you want. Oops, I took my other hand up. I'm gonna add some more grasses. I'm gonna add some more wiggly lines. Got some issues with my camera today, guys. So you know what? I gotta learn new things. Learn how to make art videos better. All right. So I've got my all my trees painted. What if I slide this under here? Can you see it better? I don't know why that's not working. Well, you can see my trees. I'm gonna turn off my camera and adjust it, and we'll come back in just a second. Okay. I want you, oh, look at this. I've already gotten a little bit of paint on there. That's okay. I'll just rub that in. I want you to notice how I have my workspace set up. I have my paper. I have my paint that I took outside. I took it out of the case because I wanted to set it right next to my painting and I wanted to have my bowl of water right next to what I'm working on. And I chose a bowl this week rather than a jar or a glass because it's a lot easier to dip it in when you're holding the paintbrush with your mouth. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put my paintbrush in my mouth and I'm gonna paint my leaves. I'm actually gonna move this up. I'm gonna paint my leaves all the different fall colors. I'm gonna paint them red and orange and yellow, and I'm gonna hold my paintbrush in my teeth with my mouth. I'm also going to take these hands of mine and I'm going to sit on them because it's so tempting to grab the brush with your hand and try to go after it. But I really want us to experience what it means to be challenged and to keep working even when something is uncomfortable or new or hard. And guys, this will not be perfect. This is our first time doing this. And so I want you to giggle. I want you to laugh with your family and your friends as you're doing this. I want you to have so much fun, but I also want you to think of the people that have worked so hard to become amazing artists because they had grit painting with their mouths and their feet. So we're gonna paint our tree leaves with warm colors with red and orange and yellow. After that, we're gonna paint our sky blue, and I'll kind of talk to you about that, and then we'll come back and we'll put our painting on the floor and we're going to paint our ground with some cooler colors with the greens and maybe a little bit of yellow. So you might see a little bit of my face, but mostly you'll just see my brush as I paint my fall leaves.
So I tried videoing from my document camera. See how I have this little stand here? That's how I make most of my videos, with that aiming over the top of my paper. But when I did, all you could see was the top of my head. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this holding it upright with my mouth so you can see what we're doing. Can you see me? Okay, so just like we do with our hands, I dip my brush in the water, I dipped it in the paint, and then I just made little leaves, just like that with my orange paint. I think I'm gonna paint this one orange, this one mostly yellow, and this one mostly red. I'll scoot a little closer, turn away a little bit so you can watch, and then I want you to do the same thing. So I had mine on the table. That might be easier for you, but you can try holding it up in the air like I'm doing, or you can try having it on the table. But let's paint our leaves with our mouths together. Okay, there we go. So I went ahead and I painted my leaves fall colors, reds and orange and yellows. And I used my mouth, and it's not perfect, but it's fun. So now I'm gonna paint my sky. And when I paint my sky, I'm gonna take the blue and I'm going to paint these areas around my leaves. I'm not gonna paint over the top of it. I'm just gonna get some blue around them. I'm gonna put a little bit of blue wherever there's white, and it'll look kind of neat because in art, artists create what we call sky holes, which means oftentimes when we paint a tree, instead of putting the sky down first, we paint the tree and then the sky around it so that it can peek through all of those little places where there are leaves. So we're going to do that, but with our mouths today. So I'm going to rinse my brush pretty well to get rid of those warm fall colors. I'm going to cheat and dip it in the blue to get a good amount of blue on my brush. And then I'm going to start painting. So I kind of like my sky like this, even though it has a lot of white. I am okay with that. Because remember, this isn't about being perfect. We're not making museum quality masterpieces. We're just learning about grit and about art. And we're growing our brains and we're having fun. And I hope you giggled and maybe even drooled a little bit on your paper. So now we've painted with our mouths, but I thought it would be fun for us to try to paint with our feet too. So you got to get permission from parents to do this one. But I'm going to place my painting on the floor of my studio on top of a piece of newspaper. And I'm going to put my paint and I'm going to put my water down there too. And I'm going to paint the grass with my feet. I'll give you a warning. It's harder to paint with your feet than it is to paint with your mouth. And a little stinkier too. So you'll need to be barefoot. Obviously, you'll need to have your bowl of water and your paints and your paper on the floor. And maybe your parents or family members want you to do this outside. Be totally great to take your artwork outside. Maybe they want you to do it on the bathroom floor or on the kitchen floor where you can't get paint on anything. So ask permission first. And if they say, we're not going to paint with our toes today, that's okay. You can just finish painting with your mouth or even with your hands if you want to. But I'm going to put mine on the floor. Come paint with me.
Okay, so I said this one was a little bit harder. I'm going to grab a paintbrush with my toes, wipe it off on the edge, dip it in a little green, and go across. And this is way harder than painting with my mouth. Maybe because I'm trying. There we go. I wonder which one you think is harder. Do you think it's easier to paint with your mouth? Or, oopsie, there's my big fat thumb. Or paint with your feet. Ooh, you know it would be fun. If you guys want to be crazy, you could do the grass with crayon first with your hard hand, with the hand that's hard to write with. That's your non-dominant hand. And then you could paint watercolor over the top. I don't know about you guys, but my leg is getting tired. Isn't it amazing that people paint like this all the time? Look at that, I accidentally just painted my tree trunk green. So we will make that into a beautiful oops. We'll go back, get a little bit of brown, try to paint over the top of it. Didn't quite work. I'll try again with a little bit more paint. See guys, not about perfection. There we go. Now I got a brown tree trunk. I think I'm going to paint the rest of my tree trunks green or brown. Maybe add a few more details with my toes, and then I think we'll be done with our painting for the day. Whew! Are you as tired as I am from all of that mouth and foot painting? It was fun. I sure hope you laughed. And I hope you invited some family members to join you, because that's a fun thing to try, isn't it? Also, it just makes us appreciate how hard some of these artists work, that they want to create so much that they won't let an obstacle get in their way. Imagine what it was like to learn, and how frustrated they must have felt at first, especially artists who had use of their hands before an accident, and then they had to relearn all over again. We have been made with some pretty amazing grit inside of us. And I know that you guys are doing hard things right now too. You're learning at home, you're far away from your teachers and your friends, and sometimes just getting through the math problems of the day takes a lot of grit. But I'm proud of you for persevering, not only in the art room, but in everything else that you're facing. I love getting to be with you each week as we draw together, even while we're apart.